More heated. On Tuesday, we first brought you an exclusive report about how Democrats, including the president, are facing growing pressure over immigration policy. The BuzzFeed reporter who broke that story is now saying the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is beefing up a draft resolution calling on the president to suspend deportations, a move that could put the White House on a collision course with either immigration activists or with Congress. And here with me now is BuzzFeed reporter Adrian Carrasquillo, who broke that story. So, Adrian, let's talk about this. Now, there was a draft resolution that apparently members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus were not happy with. Explain.
So basically what happened is activists were calling on the Congressional Hispanic Caucus to become stronger in their deportation language. And so, you know, what you had was Congressional Hispanic Caucus members saying that they felt the initial draft was assassinated, actually, you know, before it even came out. You know, so now they're saying that the people who would be protected in the Senate bill, the bipartisan Senate bill that was passed, they're saying that they should be able to, you know, basically be protected and not be deported.
So basically halt deportations for anyone who would qualify for the Senate bill, which is Bill 744. And it also mentions expanding the deferred action, meaning the prosecutorial discretion, I guess, on deporting people is what they're asking for. Now, the question we asked you when you were on before was why go after the president as opposed to Republicans? It's a great quote in your piece. One of your sources saying, for those of us who looked at the House and we knew there's no expletive way a good bill was going to get through, we decided we would have to start playing hardball with the president to put pressure on the House to act. What's the logic behind that?
Yeah, I think that now the idea is, what's the next group that we're going to classify as saying that they're politically okay? And so what my source actually told me was the president will reach his political limit on deportations before he reaches his legal limit. You know, then people will say, well, is he a lawless president, and all of those things. So he actually can continue to expand deferred action. So now the question is who belongs in that group. And so the people are saying the parents of citizens. You know, should you deport the parent of a citizen American child? You know, the spouses of military members. You know, so they're undocumented, they fought for this country. Should you deport them? So that's what's starting to happen now, where people are saying, like, who else should be included in this group and shouldn't be deported from this country?
Now, I mean, this does obviously set up a collision course with Congress, who's already pushing the president and accusing him of not carrying out the laws, when in fact the president has, you know, it is the letter of the law. The deportations are following existing settled law, and he is following it. So where is the president's sort of fulcrum here? I mean, he could clash with these activists, very dangerous for Democrats, or he could really go hard at Congress. Just from your sourcing, where do you think the White House is right now? Who are they more afraid of pissing off at this point?
Well, I think that they're starting to see that the activists and, you know, even the Latino congressional members, that they're going to have to start listening. But I think that what this all centers around is the midterm elections. You know, what is the timing on this? So you saw Senator Schumer said, well, maybe after September, you know, and so now people are saying if nothing happens, if the House doesn't do anything, which a lot of people feel that they really aren't moving on immigration reform, then maybe do we do something? Do we expand deferred action and start helping people?
All right. Well, meanwhile, while Democrats push the president to halt deportations, Republicans are actually pushing legislation that could force young undocumented immigrants to leave the country. This week, they passed the Enforce Act, authorizing Congress to sue the White House for failing to enforce the law. It takes aim at the Dreamers Act, which allows people who came to this country as children to avoid deportation and eventually become citizens. A second bill, expected to come up for a vote today, would require the Attorney General to notify Congress anytime the White House wants to change its enforcement laws. Together, the two bills could have a major impact on immigration policy. And joining me now to discuss is Congressman John Yarmuth. He's a member of the House Gang of Eight that put together an immigration reform bill last year. So, Congressman Yarmuth, describe how these two bills would impact young immigrants, particularly dreamers.
Well, basically what it would allow the House or the Senate to do is to sue the president when he, for instance, implemented the DACA program, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which allowed children brought here as young children through no fault of their own to work and to remain legally in the country. About 500,000 have already signed up for the DACA program. There are about 2 million dreamers throughout the country that and this would basically try to intimidate the president from allowing those people to stay legally in the country. And you know, the ironic thing about this, Joy, is that in their principles of supporting immigration reform, the thing they were most strong about was about letting these people stay in the country and become citizens. So it's really hypocritical of them to at one point say we really want the dreamers to stay in the country and become citizens and productive residents of the United States, but then on the other hand, say the reason we have to do this Enforce Act to actually empower us to sue the president is because of the president's action with regard to the Dreamers.
I mean, does it surprise you that given the political realities, the demographic realities really facing the Republican Party, that Republicans would do bills that, in your reading of them, specifically do go after DREAM Act kids who used to be seen as sort of the most sort of positive target if Republicans wanted a way into immigration reform?
Oh, it makes no sense to me politically. I think this basically just indicates what kind of disarray the Republican conference is in with regard to immigration policy. I know Speaker Boehner wants to do comprehensive immigration reform. People like Paul Ryan want to do it. We know there are a majority of votes in the House to pass comprehensive reform, but they can't get past this extreme right wing of their party and get something to the floor. But to take on and to focus on the Dreamers, particularly in the committee report of the Enforce Act, where they said this is why we have to do this, because we don't want the president doing things like allowing the Dreamers to stay in the country illegally without congressional approval. But they won't pass anything. And, you know, for a year ago, we heard all these rumors about, well, we're going to have our own DREAM Act. We're going to have this way to keep the immigrant kids in the country. We haven't heard a word about it since. And they've just got to get off their seats and get something done. It'll be damaging to them politically. I think it'll be damaging politically in some Senate races and some gubernatorial races this year if they don't act.
Okay, last word to you, Adrian. Who faces the bigger risk here? You have now House Republicans going after Dreamers, in a sense, with these two bills in the reading of Congressman Yarmouth. You have the president now in a position where the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is demanding action. Who, in your reporting, is facing the bigger political pushback?
Well, I mean, obviously you can see the president is not comfortable with what's going on with deportations right now, but I think the House GOP has to be very careful. Now they're going at deferred action, and, you know, that's a program that's been popular before, and it's a slippery slope. I mean, they talk about, you know, maybe in 2015 we'll pass it, but you have to understand Latino voters have long memories, and so then what's happening there? Are they just suddenly saying that these people are working for me and they have my back, or are they feeling like a little bit duped?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Congressman John Yarmouth, Adrian Carrasquillo, great reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Joy.
And you